it's Drybear. And we're just 6 days out from the full release of Arc Raiders, and today what I wanted to do is look at the talent tree and then get you some ideas and inspiration for where to go with the talent tree as well, and what builds you may want to work towards. Now, since the game isn't finalized, there might be some changes to the amount of talent points that we get that we can use in the tree, as well as where the talents are, and some of them might get swapped up, so don't be surprised if there are some changes. Now, it could be that the version of the talent tree that we got in the server slam remains unchanged. Like, it just ships in that state. It's exactly as we expect, and we get the points we want. However, there's a good chance that there might be some minor to moderate changes to what goes on in the talent tree and what they decide to do. So we'll have to see how that goes. And since these kind of videos tend to attract, you know, the mini-me's in the comments, let's just collectively get it out of our system all at once. No, the game isn't out yet, which means none of these builds can be considered fully final until we see the final system. Yes, the talent tree might change, which means that these builds might become invalidated based on what changes go on with the system itself. And most importantly, no one's telling you how to play the game. You can use the build or not. That's all up to you. But if there happens to be any of the major changes, I might rework this list and put out an updated list once we actually have the full version of the game that has the finalized talent tree. Now, I'm going to have images for each of these builds. I'll put them down below in the comments and description so you can reference them if you need to. You can use them for inspiration, take them wholesale, whatever. I don't really care. It's just an exercise on what's possible through the tree itself. So let's start with the first build, which I'm just going to call the balanced build. And I would reckon that most players on average will go for a build like this because it gives you a bit of everything, and it kind of breaks through some of those breakpoints that may make your character worse without any opportunity cost left on the table of major value. So as you can see with this build here, and again, I'm going for a 48 point build, 16 in each tree. Again, we could end up with more points or less points, but that's just what I'm locked onto right now, and we'll just see how that goes. So for the balanced build, the things that you want to consider when we're talking about a balanced build, the first one's going to be right here, which is in-round crafting, which is the very start here. Now, the downside with in-round crafting 1, you know, in Tech Test 2, there was no talent for this. You just got to craft in round no matter what. Then in the server slam, they added this as an option into the talent tree and took away base in-round crafting. So in order to craft in a round, you will need to unlock either one or both of these talents here in the survival tree. The second talent point up here allows you to unlock more recipes. By default, these recipes here include like a basic bandage, a flamethrower, hairspray or torch, and a couple other items. Nothing like majorly groundbreaking here, but the second one will add more. I'm not going to list the recipes that are in round crafting because, again, those are likely to change, so we'll see what happens when the game comes out. But I think that for a balanced build, it wouldn't be a complete balanced build if we didn't include in-round crafting. So we're going to be grabbing both in-round crafting 1 and in-round crafting 2 so that you can craft during the round and use all of that. You don't necessarily need it. You can use the gray batteries or basic fabric to heal and regenerate your shield value if you want to. It just gives you more options. So that's going to be there as well. There's also some really big value here in the middle of mobility tree. So we're going to get HP costs less when moving, or stamina costs less when moving around, as well as maximum stamina. These two traits, these two talents you see here will show up in pretty much every build just because they're so universally valuable. But we're also going to grab things like, you know, recovering stamina when walking, as well as being able to get a free dodge roll at the start of a sprint action that goes on cooldown, which is quite useful. Then I also like coming over here to conditioning and picking up this talent right here. This one makes it so that you can breach faster, which is crazy. Some doors are blocked with a breach bar and you have to break it. Breaching probes, breaching, you know, storage cabinets, electrical panels, things like that. Breaching open robots, or, you know, when you break an arc. Breaching is an action that you do a lot in Arc Raiders, so speeding that up is super valuable as well. And the numbers I have next to these are the order that I would recommend going in. So if you follow the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 9, 10 through 14, 15, 16, you can see the order. This is just a recommendation of the order that I would go in on how you spend those points, but the rest is up to you. Then we're going to come back over here and fill out the requirement for unlocking the next tier. A lot of this comes down to being able to make less noise when you loot, as well as being able to crouch and recover while you're crouching, which is super nice. Then we're going to have both of these second tier talents that you can grab here, grab the in-round looting, and then add more opportunity to your inventory, that carrying capacity, so that's there as well. The second build is a second take on the balanced approach. So if balance is more about giving you a little bit of everything, I think the scout build is going to be like the little brother, or I guess the equivalent twin to the balanced build. So this is a balanced build, but it's more focused on what you would want to be competitive. I imagine a lot of competitive minded players will focus on a build like this, because this build gives you puts all your points into things that matter when your life is on the line, right? Stamina management, recovery, things like that. So this is going to be for people that really focus on the PvP aspect of the game, or trying to be as aggressive as possible. And this is going to be more of a competitive build. So you can see there, we do grab the in-round crafting here. I do have a note that if in-round crafting 1 ends up being not useful, so like you see my note here, you can end up redistributing all of these points over to mobility and conditioning, probably conditioning, but you can also get some value out of the vaulting options up here at the top, so you can play around with those as well. But again, we're going to start here at the bottom of mobility. Start here, grab less cost of stamina when moving around, more maximum stamina, and then we're going to put a little bit of points here to like our vaulting and sliding options. Remember that when you're sliding on the ground, there are ways to recover stamina when doing that, and it also does give you some pretty good coverage and efficient use of your slide by managing your speed and making sure you slide as far as possible does extend your ability to sprint through open space. So the reason that a competitive build would have a lot of slide specific perks is for that reason. Sliding lowers your hit profile, so it's harder to hit you, but it also is slightly faster than running for the first, half of the slide, and also allows you to recover stamina in small bursts while moving through. So while, in your mind, if you're first looking at this, you probably think, why would a competitive build need to focus on sliding? Those are the reasons. Then we're going to actually unlock the second tier here for the mobility tree, and then come up and grab crawling faster when downed. I think this perk specifically is going to be super useful for like solo players, because you get downed, you can crawl out, and you can still extract. Crawling faster while on the ground in some cases might actually allow you to escape versus not, and then you're playing in squads and stuff, it could be useful for crawling to your teammates or just getting out of the way so you can get to cover quicker. There's definitely a lot of value in this here. And then we're also going to grab the dodge distance here as well, or dodge cost in stamina here as well. Dodge rolling is super useful. It is useful against players because it allows you to get behind cover or reposition, but I think that dodge rolling is most valuable against arcs, because a lot of the arcs will have like their fire rate or damage rate is actually quite low. They target, they wind up, and then they shoot, and then they have a downtime and they target and they wind up and they shoot. Or in the case of mobs like the pop specifically, they'll line up, jump, and then attack one time, and then they're done because they ended up blowing themselves up. So dodge rolling is super useful against bots because it allows you to dodge roll right when the explosion of the pop goes off, dodge roll right as the explosion of a rocketeer goes up, or the pulse from a leaper. You can avoid a lot of attacks by dodge rolling, and you will want to dodge roll a lot, especially during night raids, electromagnetic storms, or if there's a lot of arc robots in the area. So that's where we're going to manage all of our stamina here. Then we're going to jump over into the conditioning tree, because we get a lot of survivability from this as well. So reducing the amount of slowdown you get from shields, like the very bottom of the mobility tree, is quite good, because you probably want to run at least a medium shield, like a blue shield, maybe even higher, and that slowdown makes a difference, especially in how long it takes for you to get behind cover. But also there are some gaps on some of the bigger cities outside of just the starter city we played in the server Slam that actually have gaps that you won't be able to jump across if you're too slow. So if you don't have perks like this that reduce the impact of your shield or the slowdown that you get from your augment, there are some heavy builds with a heavy augment and a heavy shield that won't be able to jump across some gaps in the structures just because they don't jump far enough. So having this perk here is actually pretty useful in some cases. Then we're going to jump up this and grab as many points as we need to in order to unlock the second part of the tree. We're going to get a little bit of breach time here and then focus mostly on this perk right here, which is when you take damage, you recover some HP, which is quite useful, or stamina. So you actually recover stamina when you hit this. So taking damage gives you a nice little burst of stamina, combined with all these stamina perks might allow you to get around the battle, or if you realize you got hit, it's easier to get to cover faster. It might even be just enough stamina for you not not to pay the exhausted cost. When you run out of stamina, you have the exhausted status. It actually slows down some of your animations and movements. So having that little bit of extra stamina when you take damage can save you from that. Then we're gonna grab the survival perk here, which is when you're low on HP, your stamina recovers faster, which is nice. And we'll also be able to pick up this, like when you're down, you get a little bit extra time while down. At this point, you could probably throw in over here on the stamina bar, or you can get like, you know, some extra perks here, like crouch speed or something like that on the far right side. But this one, again, is more about survival, recovering stamina when you absolutely need it, making sure you're not slowed down too much, and then the rest goes into stamina management, because that's really what matters the most, is being able to move around the battle and take advantage of other players who can't move as effectively. Next up is the loot goblin build. There's a lot of people out there that just want to get as much loot as they physically can, load up their backpack until they're getting back pain, like lower back pain, and then haul as much as they can out of it. Now, in order to get this high in the loot survival tree, you're gonna have to make a lot of sacrifices. You can see we're not maxed out on stamina here. We have the looting here, but we don't have the recovery or defensive perks that allow us to be more survivable in that aspect. But we're giving up those to be as loot focused as we can. So in order to get the security lockers, which is the very top of the tree here, we're gonna have to put in 36 points into the tree to get that. The security lockers are a unique loot option that exists in a lot of the POIs in the game. They don't have like game-breaking loot. So don't think like if you don't have security lockers or the ability to open them, you're gonna suffer greatly or you won't be able to get the loot. It is also true that maybe you want one loot goblin on your team while the other two focus on more combat-oriented aspects, so that one person can, at least when you're looting buildings, if you're playing squads, you get to open the security lockers. They do have decent loot in them. They will be another source for materials and that sort of thing, but they are not required. They're not broken loot. You're not gonna be getting 12 legendary snipers when you open a security blocker, but that's kind of the focus of a loot goblin build, is building on that. So we're gonna get all of the bottom of the survival tree here, like things like looting quieter, being able to in-round craft, move faster while crouching, recover stamina, that sort of thing. We're gonna grab the 2 perks here in the middle, and then we're gonna come up and grab in-round crafting too, because we want to craft with all the loot we're getting. It also allows you to manage your inventory better by being able to in-round salvage as well as in-round craft to turn those into better options as well. We're also going to max out the lowered impact of being over encumbered, because I know a lot of loot goblins, you're going to want to go slightly over your carrying capacity. There's a lot of downsides to becoming over encumbered, especially in combat, but this will lessen that effect in general. And then we're going to come over here and get the increased inventory, which is really awesome. You also get the chance to potentially reveal 2 items at once. So combine these 3 together. This perk right here makes it so that occasionally you will reveal 2 items at once instead of 1. This perk here allows you to reveal items faster, and then you have tons of perks like this one over here, down here on the conditioning tree, which makes you breach faster. So you loot faster, you reveal sometimes twice at once, and you also have the ability to open security lockers, and you have a bigger inventory as well, which means you are just the loot meister. Now we're still gonna grab the climb and vault faster. We're gonna grab, spend a little bit less stamina and have a little bit more maximum stamina. But again, in order to get all of this tree and also get the breach speed, you'll have to make some sacrifices there. Now you could remove points from conditioning until you get the maximum stamina here if you'd like to, but I do think that if you're going to be the loot goblin, you may as well be the loot goblin. Next up is a build I'm going to call the Parkour Build with a max in mobility. Now there's a couple notes about this build specifically that a lot of people need to understand, and I kind of have it here in the first note at the top of this build. There are a lot of different maps in Arc Raiders. If you only played the one map in the server slam, you probably wonder, why would I want vaulting and why would I want wall leaping at all? And the reason is some of the other maps are very indoors or have a lot of vaults on them, because it's just a little bit more complicated in the structure and layout. The level design is a little bit more involved, and so you'll be vaulting a lot more. Some of these allow you to leap after vaulting. Some of these make you vault way faster. And you also get bonuses and stamina and things like that. You can also vault for no stamina at all, which means that when you're moving between areas that have a lot of vaults, this build can really shine. The other thing worth noting as well is this perk right here. If you can see this, steps 30 through 34, this one increases your wall leaping If you don't know what wall leaping is, I'm like 90% sure. I am 100% certain that a portion of wall leaping is how easily your character will mantle on surfaces. So if you have been talking about the dam trick where you could jump off the top floor and land on the second floor and get into loot room, which is no longer possible, a lot of those involve like mantling on a surface. And so this perk here actually does affect that, which means that it's easier for you to grab onto surfaces from a distance. So when you're jumping from building to building or using the drop hook or something like that, you can vault and mantle a lot easier. There's a lot of questions of what else wall leaping could actually do. It's not, it's not like we're wall running all over the place, but at the very least, increasing the range and efficacy of mantling onto ledges means that you can climb things other people can't, and you can also do some parkour moves that other people can't. Jumping from building to building, ledge to ledge, like actually doing like some Ghost Runner kind of business where you're just going all over like Mirror's Edge or zooming around. You got a lot of perks around here for like, being able to crawl faster, vault with less stamina, and that's kind of what we're focusing on here, is getting all of this. So you should be able to move very quickly. You have a lot of cooldowns around managing your stamina, and you can zoom around the map entirely. Then we're just going to get the bottom perks for the other two trees. 5 points at the bottom left of the conditioning tree means that we are weighed down less by our shield. And then bottom right, it just means that we crouch and move faster, which is called part of the parkour build. You're going to miss out on faster breaching, identifying, in-round crafting, some of the survival mechanics or HP recovery mechanics in conditioning. But if you like to run, this is really awesome. I have a note here on the second note here that mentions that this build is going to be uniquely effective at doing special events like the Harvester. Every map has special conditions and events, like a bunch of raider caches will show up, a bunch more probes will show up, special events like the Harvester will show up. However, typically those events are in one spot of the map, and if you get unlucky and you spawn far away, it's not worth running across the entire map to go get it. But a build like this could very easily do that, and maybe you, instead of going for POIs, you run the parkour build and you go for urban environments or special events, and then use that for that loot as well. Next up is a build I'm just going to call the turtle build, because it relies a lot on the HP recovery and defense that you get from the conditioning tree. Again, for the start here, we're just going to focus on getting the spending less stamina when moving around and maximum stamina here from mobility, and then every other point goes into the conditioning tree, which does have some cool perks to it. This one extends how long you're in the incapacitated state so that you can get to the extraction point and extract if you're downed, or if you're playing in squads, it's easier for other people to get you back up. This perk here, if you get into the second half of the conditioning tree, you can actually make it so that when you breach, you generate more resources from that breach action, which is really cool. And this perk here is one we don't get to use in too many builds. It's at the very top of the conditioning tree, but this one means that the weapon that you're holding, like the weapon you have equipped, has less impact on your carrying capacity than normal, which should free up some more inventory for you by having this perk at all. And lastly, this perk in the top left for the conditioning tree requires 36 points to get here, but once we do get here, when you get to critical HP, you will, on a cooldown, regenerate HP up to a certain point. Now, they may change this, and this may end up being really good, or it might be kind of meh, depending on how much HP recovery we get, but the fact that you have this perk down here, which gives you stamina, this one gives you stamina when you take damage, this one gives you HP when you're too low, this one allows you to dodge roll for free right after your shield breaks. Put it all together and you're super tanky. You have the ability to get multiple recovery statuses when your shield breaks, when you run out of stamina, when you run out of HP. You have so many things that help you get back into the fight, which means this is focused primarily on being in the thick of it, taking damage, and being where it's loud and breaching and all of that kind of stuff, which is more focused on tanking than anything else. If you're someone that doesn't value some of the little more looting options, more stamina management, or even like in-round crafting. And for the last build, I just wanted to do something a little goofy just because I just wanted to. Like, this is one that's just kind of fun. So this is going to be a melee focused build. The reason for this is basically these perks right here, like the last line in the top half of conditioning. This means that you can spend less stamina when you use melee. Your melee causes more damage to arc robots, and at the very top here, this one makes it so that when you deal damage to small-sized arc robots, from the server slam, it was Tick, Pop, Turret, and Wasp. If you hit them with a melee strike at all, it one-shots them instantly, like they just explode. And so you get the opportunity to actually go in and do melee to those, so any kind of small sized drone. But the fact that these two perks here means that you can swing like crazy on even the medium sized drones and bots as well. So spending less stamina when you melee, but also dealing a lot more to arc robots as well. This one probably hasn't really been sufficiently tested because most people play at range, but there's some really cool bonuses about melee that a lot of people don't know about. The first one here is, at least on the last test that we've had, melee went through shield damage reduction, which means that melee would deal damage directly to HP and doesn't get the damage reduction that you get from the shield, even the maximum shields. Now, again, this could be something that changes with the release. Maybe they make it so melee does go through shields or does get hit by shields, so you get the damage reduction there. But if you have, stamina management, recovery, high movement, and then you just get in someone's face and start meleeing them, or just jump on bots, it could actually, if you have the stones to do it, it could actually be really cool and exciting. So I just wanted to do a fun one at the end here. If you're interested in this, it might be fun, like in a squad build, to have like a scout plus a brawler plus a loot goblin in one 3-man squad. So loot goblin can open all the security breaches. It's good at looting fast. The scout is good at fighting players and covering ground and zooming around and getting a lay of the land. And then the brawler is good at dealing with all the bots that come your way. Obviously, you're not going to be meleeing like Hornets or Rocketeers very much unless you Spider-Man your way up there, or drop hook or wolf pack them down, or try to showstopper them in general. But it does give you some pretty cool opportunities, and I would love to see someone run the Brawler build and just run up and start meleeing a Leaper or meleeing a Bastion or something like that, just to see if it's possible and see how much value you get out of it. I just think that, with this perk right here, going through damage reduction and some other values here, I just wanted to make a melee build out of that. So there you go, 6 builds to use as inspiration, reference, or you can just use it wholesale if that's what you want to go for. We have the ordering on there as well, just to get the juices flowing for Arc Raiders release. Let me know what you think about this down below, or what your predictions are for the full release of the game, or also what build you're going to be using for your first expedition kind of journey foray to topside when the game actually comes out. Toss that all down below in the comments. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.